Hello and welcome to the Wrestling Headlines Money in the Bank review. My name is Maher, aka Imp. I'm a very, very sleepy boy. The birds are tweeting outside. However, we've watched one of my favourite styles of pay-per-view for WWE over the calendar year, which is Money in the Bank. I always tell myself Money in the Bank. It's a show that I always enjoy. It's not always a banger of a show, but I don't need it to be. It's alright. It's fine. I'm perfectly fine with that. It's perfectly okay. However, when it comes to Money in the Bank, I absolutely adore it. It doesn't always matter if it's that big a deal or whatever. But still, this year's show was, I feel like it was one of those ones where it wasn't a big show. It wasn't a massive deal. Really. Wasn't really that big a thing. And then we get to kind of like where we are coming out of it. It was like, they set some things up. It was one of those shows. It was a B kind of show setting some things up. It was nothing crazy. It's like, it was fine. It was fine. Like the first women's match was a bit clunky and chaotic, but I kind of live for that. In these ones, like a Money in the Bank ladder match being like the spot's not quite working and it being a bit chaotic and clunky, I am perfectly fine with that. Like for me, that's not a downer. Like that's perfectly fine. And then you get to, I guess, the men's one, which is a lot more formulated and structured, and it kind of played out a lot smoothly, for lack of a better word. Yes, it's a ladder match which is going clunky and crazy all over the place, but still I generally really enjoyed what I saw. However, it's a weird one coming out of it where there was some strong wrestling on it, but it was a card where I went into it not particularly caring. There was, during parts of it, I was kind of zoning out, not really caring, but then you get to the end. It's all about the Money in the Bank ladder matches. It's one of those ones. I'm going to turn my sound down a little bit because I can see myself peaking. Good God, not that much. Let's go for there. That'll do, right? But still, anyway, it was a fine one. I enjoyed both ladder matches. For me, that's the takeaway from this pay-per-view. When it comes to Money in the Bank, did I enjoy the ladder matches, or was there something at the end that completely took me out of it? Cough, cough. Brock Lesnar one. That was the one. Boombox Brock Lesnar. I was trying to remember that nickname. Like there's that year, I really enjoyed it, but because that's one in my mind at the moment, because you're going in who's going to win. The different reason that was in my mind is because the winner was somebody who wasn't announced for the match, gets added and wins. And I'm not a massive fan of that. Like it's not my biggest kind of. Like, I'm not going to really cheer when that happens. It's like, oh, the guy who won wasn't in the match. Okay, cool, yeah, fine, yeah, whatever. Like that it's for me. It's like it takes me out a little bit. That said, I don't mind it because it's theory. I think the only reason it got any kind of a reaction like that out of me is because of Boom Brock Lesnar. Because of that. Where they did a full, for me, this is not that, but it comes to mind because it is that guy added. Where, by the way, spoilers, Theory is your Mr. Money in the Bank, even though he wasn't announced for the match, he got added right as everyone had what's in. The difference is, the reason why it's not that bad is because Brock Lesnar turned up after the match had been playing out for like 19-20 minutes. Like, the other lads all had an absolute banger of a match. I remember the crowd were really white hot into it. And they were really behind all different wrestlers and different dynamics that are playing. Then the bloody music plays. Brock Lesnar comes out, just takes the briefcase and wins. And that this took me out of the match. It really sucked because all the other men in that match are putting in amazing efforts. Like, who on earth is going to win? And the answer was none of them. It's like, oh, cool. That similar feeling is here, where you're thinking going into the show, oh, who's going to win? And then afterwards you walk out and like, oh, the answer was none of them. It was like, that sucks a little bit. That said, I still don't mind it as much because Theory was there for the entire match. That's a different, like, Brock Lesnar turns up, grabs the briefcase, leaves. It's that whole confusing thing of he's not even booked in the match. How is he allowed to actually be Money in the Bank? Like, there's none of those questions. This is a guy that got added to the match and of course he kind of booing or whatever, like boo da, 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 da. It reminded me a lot of the Drew McIntyre kind of he's the chosen one storyline with Vince McMahon. For me, I really like the similarities there. But yeah, I was one of those ones where I'm watching going, it sucks that they've not used this. Like, they've got Theory, they've got Drew McIntyre, both guys who were those people that Vince McMahon personally chose, and then they're not playing off that dynamic. They've got time to do it, obviously, but still, yeah. I feel like we're going to get quite a long reign from Theory as well, based on Money in the Bank. I don't mind that. I really don't mind that. But the match itself, let's get to the match itself, then we can talk about the kind of stuff long term afterwards for it. So Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, Matt Riddle, Sheamus, Sami Zayn, Omos, Madcap Moss. Then Adam Pearce comes out, announces that there's going to be a surprise 8th man added last minute. The crowd all hot and excited. You could immediately feel it in the air. Oh, it's Theory. And as soon as it's Theory, you could just sense just the atmosphere. And just every single person was like, well, he's winning then. And for me, that for a Money in the Bank match, that feeling absolutely sucks. Just that, oh, well, he's definitely winning. So personally, I could see 2 different scenarios. I just found that really interesting. Like, when he was there, the crowd there was a boo for him, but there's like a simmer boo. It was like, oh, well, this sucks. I want one of these other guys to win that you've been promoting. I was like, excited for that match. For me personally, though, there were 2 different ways. There was that, oh, he's definitely winning, it's kind of thing in the air. But also it was there where there was that other idea with Drew McIntyre when he was that 8th man who was just despised and hated in his first Money in the Bank ladder match back at WrestleMania like 12 years ago, in 2010. Like, Drew McIntyre was the guy that everybody else hated, so they just beat the crap out of him and threw him out, or he's the one who took the spots where he was in the most pain. Like, it was a really strong idea. And the Theory got launched about all over the place, where they did a good enough job in the match to try and convince me that, oh, no, this is going to be his role. The entire point is to just add him in and make him as hated as possible, and then everybody else reacts to him in that way as well. I really liked how they played that out in the match like that. So like, he filled a role in the match. He wasn't just an extra guy that's suddenly added. Like, no. He filled the role. Like, he was there for a reason, and I liked that. But still, I don't know if I would have gone this route, definitely. I mean, for me, if he's going to be in there, you can just add him to the match. It's fine. Like, it's all right. You can do it ahead of time. I didn't need any of the Bobby Lashley Austin Theory stuff. Like, I did not care about that match going in. They won me over with the match itself, but didn't care. But anyway, the match itself for the Money in the Bank match. There were different people that I loved in this match. Sami Zayn was absolutely brilliant. I loved him in this match. Just like the sheer cheek of him, like hiding behind the ring post as Omos was wrecking shop. I just love that. I loved how the first time you saw it was where it was on the wide shot, like it wasn't a shot focused on him. It was just a wide shot, and then as it was on the ring of Omos like getting back in the ring after battering someone to go and batter somebody else, you saw Sami Zayn just all tight, just shimmering around so Omos wouldn't see him. It's like, oh yes, fantastic, love it. Yes, all day. Love Sami Zayn there. And of course, with like his other moments of him scrambling up, I was like, oh god, there's no one else there. Is Sami Zayn actually going to win? No, of course he's not. He took possibly the nastiest bump in this match, with him like hopping over Madcap in a nice little cheeky trying to clamber up the ladder before Madcap then powerbombs him onto a ladder which is strewn across the corner ring post area. But oh dear, he went really, really high up on the shoulders. It looked pretty painful. He took the Kevin Owens bump for this match, is how I'd put it. It's like, oh dear. Also, Madcap Moss was the man who powerbombed him. Like, oh dear, poor Madcap met with pure apathy from the crowd. Like, they were not having any of him, like, at all. Like, for me, you can kind of tell he's one of those guys on SmackDown you watch and he just feels manufactured to a standardly boring degree. And part of that is when he comes out as well, you can sense the inserted cheers. You can just sense there's not a lot of character there. It's just, he's very fine. He's very 2005 2006 SmackDown guy, and there's like that's fine, but I'm never going to get into him, especially now in 2022 where we kind of expect more from the characters. That's somewhere WWE's I'm talking more broader TV. The TV landscape has changed, so a character like Madcap just doesn't work. He needs something. Omos, I talked about Omos a second ago. He was great. Well, I'll just say that. Omos was given 2 different separate huge spots. Of course, he was wrecking shop early at the beginning. Then he's given the Big Show / Braun Strowman treatment, buried beneath piles of ladders. But he found his way out. We didn't get... I just assume whenever we do that we're going to be due our big hulking moment as he breaks out of the ladder pile. But no, we didn't get that. He just appeared in the ring again, and the commentator's like, oh, he's broken free. I was like, but why the huge visual of the ladders? We never went back to it. He could have been doing anything after we panned away from that camera. Cool. But it led to one of the spots of the match for me, where he found his way out into a truly unique visual of a 7-man powerbomb onto the announce table. Like, the visual of that, I was like, because I was worried about Omos being in this match, because we've seen big men in this match before, and they get there, and it's just it's the Strowman spots, it's the Big Show spots. Like, you feel like you've seen a lot of them, and I wasn't expecting much more from Omos, but that 7-man powerbomb spot was amazing. It looked so good. It's so unique. In terms of the other guys, the crowd was seemingly the hottest for Riddle, which is like kind of great to see that the RK Bro storyline really has worked, and that Riddle can actually go somewhere without Randy. The crowd are really behind him, even though the guy's injured. Like, yes, he can still... Like, it wasn't RK Bro, oh, they're only cheering for Riddle because of Randy. It's like, no. Riddle's got something here. They can run with it. They, for me, continue to get that... Can get the fans behind him, continue to beat Riddle up, having just missed out on opportunities in spite of really trying. And then either Randy returns as a friend and helps him, and that kind of guides him back onto a track of actual direction. Or, it's Randy Orton. He just starts to beat the crap out of him, turns heel. Either way can work. I feel like Randy Orton at this point is too popular to do that. Like, don't do that. Like, no. Have him and Riddle generally be together. It can work. It'll be fine. But yeah, they were really hot for Riddle, and he was given one of the biggest spots in the match. The crazy, crazy man, in the form of a floating bro off the top of the ladder into a pile of lads, and landing really safely as well. I mean, his foot seemed to just whack Sheamus like on the shoulder area here, which, to be fair, that's exactly where you'd want to be out of all the other places for someone to land on you. But still, that was... to say how crazy that spot was, the landing it looked really, really safe. There's a floating bro right off the tippy top of a ladder. Like, oh my god, that was huge. And he got a huge cheer from the crowd as well. Also, the RKO off of the ladder later on, when it's Rollins and Riddle fighting on that ladder. They've booked it really well, because arguably this is the pairing with the strongest live crowd investment, going crazy with an RKO off of that ladder and crashing right down, taking both lads out, and immediately, oh no, Theory's winning. They were the 2 biggest guys. As soon as that happened, because I think personally, I was cheering for Rollins. I just want the Reigns run to end. not because I'm like bored of the Roman Reigns character. It's more that there isn't any story there anymore. He just is champion, and now we're repeating stuff. I think that it's the Brock Lesnar thing, really. The announcement of that, I was like, okay, cool. We're now just repeating. We're at that point now. It's like, that sucks. Like, we're not going forward anymore. We're stalled again into Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar. And I'm not saying I find Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar like super boring anymore, because I feel like they won me back over at WrestleMania. Because for me, like, the build, how excited I am in the build, I didn't care about the story. They've lost me a while ago with their storytelling. Like, if the matches themselves can kind of entertain me like they did back at WrestleMania, yeah, fine, cool, yeah, go for it again at SummerSlam. Like, I'm fine with that. That's perfectly alright. But I'm ready to move on in terms of the stories on the show, because it's not going anywhere anymore. I'd like it to move forward. But still, I like the idea of giving it to Rollins so that he can cash in and generally take it over and move the title feud into Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins. I like that. You can still do that without this. Like, Cody can still win the Royal Rumble, and you do something along these lines. Like, that's perfectly fine. You still go that route. But Austin Theory is an interesting one, because that means you're going to have to build him. Like, I thought Liv Morgan, she won the women's match. I thought with Liv Morgan, they do like the babyface version of what they're going to do with Theory, because she is rising really naturally to that top level, and you can just have her just hold the case just for a bit, just for a few months or something, or a couple of months. She holds that briefcase and then eventually kind of gears up to cash it in. No, that didn't happen at all. No. No. Immediately. I'll get into that later, why I'm both happy that she is champion and that Ronda Rousey isn't champion, but also mixed feelings. Every year this happens with the women. They can't hold to those briefcases. They do not mess about cashing them in. But yeah, Rollins and Riddle are really the two hottest in the match. Drew McIntyre set for Roman Reigns in Cardiff, so he doesn't need to win this. And Sheamus is his friend. They died together valiantly. And that's pretty much like everybody like in the match covered. And then he gets the winner himself, Theory. It's that trope of you're really excited beforehand. All 7 guys have made the entrance. Who's going to win? The answer is none of them. I'm not a massive fan of that. However, if you're going to do it, this is the guy to do it with. This is the story to do it with. I think I'm only got this feeling because of past actions. Like if they hadn't done Boombox Lesnar, I think I'd be fine with this. Like I personally don't mind it. It's great, and he fit into the match really well. He added a dynamic that this match really kind of needed. Just the lad for other people just to launch about and destroy, for Omos to beat the crap out of as well multiple times. It's one part Austin Theory just jumped from the corner and Omos just grabbed him by the throat, just like go away. I love that. That's great. Really. I'm interested to see what they go with next, because this is like with the Theory of Vince McMahon stuff. I'm just so used to the storylines just getting dropped, as in they give it an idea and after a certain amount of time they just give up. And I'm used to that so much, that seeing something actually gone through with, no matter how much of a fan I have been of certain areas of the build for it, they're actually sticking with Austin Theory. Well, they're not. They dropped the Austin. They're sticking with Theory. I at least can appreciate that. It's got that going for it. I don't mind where they're going with this. I don't mind. And yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on the men's match. Like it had some really strong spots. It had Sami Zayn being amazing and hilarious. Drew McIntyre was almost an MVP of like the momentum of it. Seth Rollins did his big spots and would have to go and recover. Same with Riddle getting huge spots and having to go and recover. Omos, I don't know if I could say if Omos was great, but he took these bumps well. He did spots really, really well. Looked dominant and then also got destroyed with that awesome power bomb onto the announce table. And then Austin Theory wins in the continued slow build of a next top guy, as long as they have the patience. Yeah, I feel like I can find that. I feel like that's fine. Yeah, that's my thoughts on it. It was relatively fine. Anyway, now I'm going to go through the rest of the card in order, which means I get to talk about the women's Money in the Bank match. But first, a sip of cider. I'm Irish. I need my cider. Right, who cares that it's 4:30 in the morning and I get my cider. So the show kicked off in Las Vegas, Nevada for our Ladder Kerfuffles pay-per-view, premium live event. The women's Money in the Bank ladder match, Becky Lynch, Asuka, Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, I still call her Gonzalez, Lacey Evans, Shotzi and Alexa Bliss. And interestingly, from reports that I've seen from various people, hot in the arena, but translating a tad messy back home. I don't know if like WWE's camera kind of adds to that, but yeah, that's kind of what happened. But for me, it's all part of the chaos of these matches. I don't mind if spots get whiffed, because it's that gymnastics thing of you've got a high bar of difficulty, meaning there's a higher chance of error, but you get scored appropriately. That's what this is for me. They're getting scored appropriately because these ladder matches are a higher bar difficulty. So if you whiff a spot, it's a high bar difficulty. It's fine, and it's chaos anyway. I'm perfectly fine. Like for me, it was Shotzi running up the ladder and just not getting her Shelton Benjamin moment. It's like it happens. It's fine. My only worry came when she then also mucked up she had Alexa Bliss in an electric chair, and it went wrong again. It went wrong. I don't know what the spot was going to be, but ladder match, it's fine. It's fine. But when it comes to the senton, at that point I'm like, she might be having one of those nights where I might even consider just saying, just lay at ringside and recover. She did have bigger spots, kind of like right towards the end, which she came back in and just took her hits. But the senton was like, you might actually be a danger to yourself at this point. They're taking the senton off the corner and whacking her head right on the back. The next time we saw her, her face must have been bled on because it had evidences of like wiped blood all over Shotzi's face when she came back. And it's like, if you're having one of those nights, wrestling's quite dangerous. Like I have those days where you just, body limb wise, it's not good. Brain to arm doesn't function well. They just like, you just have one of those days. It just looked like Shotzi. She was like giving the effort, obviously. And again, I'm fine with the Benjamin spot, the running up the ladder. I'm fine with this higher degree difficulty. It's fine if you put that up. The Alexa Bliss thing was again a higher degree difficulty, and it went wrong whenever it was going to be. Fine, but then the senton one was like, that was so dangerous, and you've landed on your head. It's the double whammy. I don't know if I'd let you back into this match. I don't know how super necessary it was. So yeah, still, it's fine. Anyway, the match itself, like the overall feeling, was like everything was in place to elevate a talent amongst a strong field. It's exactly what they did as well. Really, really happy that they actually used it for that instead of just giving it to an established guy. To be fair, the same with the men's match. That field, all of the favourites were people already elevated, and I personally didn't want that. I think the closest I got to that was Seth Rollins, so he could elevate Cody. I think that's the only reason I was fine with that one. But when it comes to the other lads, it's like, I didn't want Drew to win. He's already got his match booked pretty much solidly for Cardiff. He doesn't need Money in the Bank. It almost feels like a waste of it because he's not going to build anybody. He's already got that opportunity. It's already there. It's like, it's fine. You can build up Austin Theory. Just like I thought, they'd give it to Liv Morgan and slowly build her. Instead, it's the women's curse, or it's the women's thing. It's been, I think Carmella was the last person to hold that briefcase longer than like 2 or 3 weeks. Like, it's insane. They cash in. It's been 5 years in a row that they've cashed in within like 3 weeks of winning the briefcase. I think it's been 2 weeks max, maybe. It's insane. Bayley cashed it in immediately. I think Nikki Cross, was like 2 weeks. I think then of course tonight, and Alexa Bliss also did the same thing. It's like, oh my god, just are you not able to last more than a day with this briefcase? One thing I won't take for granted. I'm really happy that Ronda Rousey isn't champion, purely because that reign has been it's been horrid. From the way that it's booked, the way the characters are written in those stories, it's just not worked. Whenever there's a segment for the SmackDown Women's title, I don't care. I'm tuning out. It's not good. They're trying to fit the square peg into the round hole. Like, Ronda Rousey has to be a certain kind of champion. It's like, but that's not the person she is in terms of what she can do as a performer. But she's got to fit. No. Why not work to her strengths? This crazy idea of working to the talent's strength rather than, you got to fit this mould. Strange. Anyway, in terms of the talent in this match, Raquel getting her power spots. Shotzi, the reckless risk taker. I think it's fair to say she earned that reward, that acclaim in this match. Off the bat, a great fast pace with Becky and Asuka initiating the action before we quickly escalated into our spot show. It felt like this match had a bit more of an unnatural, like one spot then moves to the next spot kind of rhythm to it. The men's flowed a little bit more naturally in the way that it still felt very structured. I think I'd say this match felt a little bit more chaotic purely because of things going a little bit awry, but in a match like this I'm fine with that. Like, they can really add to it, and when this match had that rhythm of next spot, that chaos really does help because I feel like it kind of needed it. The men's didn't need something like that as much. Obviously it would have added to it personally, because personally that kind of thing really does help, but still, yeah, poor Shotzi had her couple of failed spots, but hey, it's Money in the Bank, it comes with the territory. And then the flow and pattern falling nicely back into Becky and Asuka, and you had Asuka down in a bit of a convoluted way after many reversers on Raquel Gonzalez. Asuka eventually finds her way laid across the table, from the ring to the announce desk. Then Becky Lynch spots what's happened, sets up her own ladder, climbs up like, oh my god, here we go, goes for the leg drop, and then she just kind of skims across. It's like, oh no. It's like, poor Asuka might have got like a burn across the stomach off of it. Becky on the floor like, me arse. It's like, oh dear. Oh yeah, just The Irish lass dropping butt first onto her ladder-draped foe in Asuka. It's like, oh, poor ass. Oh, poor... Both of them. Like, that sucked. It's one of those... reason that it sucks more is it doesn't get a huge pop from the crowd. There's been no big bash crang explosion or anything. Like with the table just explodes outwards, or the ladder just buckles and there's that loud crunchy noise. No. This looked like it hurt and it didn't get a loud pop because there was no explosion of thing. It's like, no, it just hurt, and that's the worst kind of outcome from it. It's like, poor both of them. But the match itself, a really fun final run, with Becky pushing down 4 of the lasses, leaving her all alone. They were trying to climb the ladders, just push the ladders over, leaving her all alone in the ring, climbing up only for Liv Morgan to finally arrive back in. Becky pushing her ladder away as well. So yes, part of the course, that's what she did to the others. But Liv places her foot on the rope and rebounds back. Because, like, hey, one person nailed their Shelton Benjamin spot, knocking Lynch off, and Liv wins. 100% the right choice. The fans are really behind Liv. Great to see WWE taking notice and reacting to that swell of support. Fingers crossed she gets a bit of time with the briefcase before cashing in. The women's division has a bad track record with letting a Money in the Bank winner kind of build and build and build. At least that was what I was thinking. I do realise as I read that notes out, I was like, oh yeah, I didn't actually add the kind of emphasis I meant to. So I just read it plainly. But that's what I thought, that's what I wrote, that's what I wanted. I was like, give her the briefcase. Just let her have it for a little while, build it up. Because she's naturally climbing the card. This is just that kind of thing, that note just to emphasise it. You can have it just play out for a little bit so that everyone knows she's got the briefcase. It's going to happen. You can even go to the next... Oh no, there's supposed to be SummerSlam. I mean, why not SummerSlam? It's let it play out a little bit. But no, it has to happen right here. It's like, fine. Yeah, whatever, yeah. It catches it in. It's a huge moment for Liv. She gets elevated. She's promoted way up to the main event. But I look at it like, but the only reason I feel like this is because it's been 5 years of really quick cash-ins for the women's division. 5 years in a row, every single time. It was like, That said, the SmackDown Women's Division desperately needed a shake-up. It was bland, it was empty, it was nothing. After Ronda Rousey's faced Natalya, what is there? Apart from more people that Ronda does... There's no big SummerSlam match. There's nothing there. It's like, yeah. So, yeah. It's a double-edged thing. It was like, would have liked Liv to have that briefcase just for a bit. Just to at least build it a little bit. But also, I fully understand, and that SmackDown Women's Division desperately needed a shake. Like, it was flat and nothing. So yeah. But obviously with the Money in the Bank winners, Carmella is the anomaly there, given that she holds the record for the longest time holding the Money in the Bank briefcase before cashing it in. Everyone else has cashed in incredibly quickly. Like 5 years in a row. Not one person's held it more than a couple of weeks. It's like, fine, whatever. But there's bigger fish. It's one of those where I look at it, it's like, I've got my minor grievances, but there's bigger fish to fry. The SmackDown division, needs to shake up. Liv Morgan can really help with that. The fans are not taking to Ronda Rousey, mostly because of the way they're writing and booking her, what they're making her kind of do when they're not her strengths. But it's WWE, they can do what they want. If they want to if they want to book Logan Paul as a babyface, in spite of all of the information telling you otherwise, you can. You can do what you want. You can do what you want. But still, yeah, Liv Morgan as champion needs to shake up that the division needs. You can stick with that. You can go with it. Anyway, they're the two Money in the Bank matches. The main reason for the show. The main reason to kind of tune in. Personally, like going into this show, I had absolutely zero interest for anything other than the Money in the Bank ladder matches. And I wouldn't say I was massively excited for them. I just, I know I enjoy these pay-per-views. I know that these ladder kerfuffles are for me. I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't need amazing stories told within. It really does elevate them if you interweave all your different rivalries and things. It really gives an awesome dynamic, but I can still enjoy them. I'm fine with the chaos. Like the women's match, the reason why I'm not too gripey on it is I'm perfectly fine with ladder chaos. That's fine for me. I'm okay with that. Rest of the card, I looked at it, I was just like, well, at least it's short. Like, there's been past Money in the Bank shows that era where every single show had to be 4 hours. Money in the Bank was not easy that year. Like, wow. Yeah. I much prefer this rhythm, where it's 6 matches long, but the in-between is like a kind of quick takeover kind of length. And I don't mean takeover kind of rhythm, because on the Peacock era, there's a lot of fluff. There's a lot of time to kill. Like, watching the pay-per-views live now, the pacing dies. In terms of watching the show, between every match, the pacing just dies. So if any match wants to do a slow build, the pacing of the show's already died before they've come out. So when they start a bit, like the tag team match, it started a bit slower, then eventually built to a white hot kind of peak. But because of the kind of the Peacock era, where you have to run so many video packages to make room for the advertising, that means that the pace of the show just dies in between matches. So it took quite a while to kind of win them back. That kind of sucks. What I mean is, there's just 4 matches, bang, 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 done. Off we go to the main event. Awesome, great. If only there wasn't all that, like, 5 minutes between every match of nothing. It got to that point where a video package would start playing for one of the wrestlers on Monday Night Raw, and I immediately moved the window to something else. Like, I stopped paying attention. Like, I know what it is. Cool, this is time killing. There's an advert on Peacock or something. I've stopped watching. So, yeah. Don't forget, I'm English. I get this on the WWE network. And my do I sound happy for it. As looking at other people's experiences. Like, oh, I'm so thankful. Anyway, now for the rest of the show, which I've just stated, to me going in, I felt like didn't particularly matter. I wasn't massively excited. I felt like they, in some areas, proved me wrong. In other areas, proved me right. The women's matches were partly not their fault in the crazy injury bug in the wrestling world right now. Also catching the Raw Women's Championship match. It's like, yeah. Whilst the SmackDown one was, this is a result of your own problems. Like, you created this scenario. This is your fault that you ended up in this mess. So less sympathy for what turned out to be the Ronda Rousey Natalya match. More sympathy for the Carmella one. Like, the Raw side's built really well. I'm really happy with the Raw women's division. It's kind of sad to see Liv Morgan leave, because she was almost perfect for that. But I also, it sucks that Rhea Ripley's not there. They've built that division really well. It's kind of time that SmackDown get that same treatment. And they've got some of the talent there, like Raquel Rodriguez, but she's generic smiley person. It's like, how have you done that to Raquel Rodriguez? Like, she's got her back, she smiles and wrestles. It's like, is that it? Like, it's because I watched her in NXT. Like, her then jumping to the main roster, it's like, it just jumps out of you. It's like, oh wow, she's just smiling person now. I've no idea what her character is. Does she have one? It's like, my god. Anyway, I'm getting tangent. So first off, the United States Championship match, Theory versus Bobby Lashley. My first instinct, bloody hell, this one got a lengthy promo package. Jesus Christ. It's when the pacing really started to hit me. And this was another one where I generally just didn't care going in. It meant nothing to me. But then they won me over during the match. And that means a lot to me. A big, powerful Bobby with his big and power. Our baddie champion quickly into the realm of cheeky survival tactics. An amazing spear curling up into a ball and bleeding. It's like, oh, I loved it. You can't hit a spear if it's curled up in a ball on the floor. Yes, I loved it. The two of them generally did a great job, given that I went into this given 0 Fs, but they got me invested quickly. Like, upping the ante as they went along, instead of having our heel champion like slow the pace right down to quell our explosive hero. It's like we would see that in the SmackDown Championship match, where the pace just went down slow. It's like, no, for me this was how you do it. Yeah, the heel was being heelish, but they never slowed the pace right down. It was always keeping it going. Theory, not just a cowardly heel, but also getting his own licks in. Like, fully getting me with the ending swing, stealing Lashley's spear with the same rotation and everything, before going to end with his A-Town down, but nope, outslid the bloody-mouthed Bobby Lashes and into the Hurt Lock for the win that caught me completely off guard. Your new United States champion, Bobby Lashley. At the time, I was like, oh wow, I did not see that coming. This is way more interesting than what I thought, where I was like, he's just going to get put over by Lashley, then we'll have more middling kind of feuds and he'll get something for SummerSlam. News had already come out that apparently John Cena won't be on SummerSlam, so who knows what Theory is going to do. But yeah, bigger picture coming out of this, like, yeah, I'm perfectly fine with him dropping the title, winning Money in the Bank, going somewhere else. A rethink of what he's going to do at SummerSlam, and I think I much prefer him. If he's not going to face John Cena, get the title off him. Yeah, it's perfectly fine. Move on to something else. Give Bobby Lashley some direction, and then Austin Theory, can have Money in the Bank and slowly elevate his way up the card. I could say The Miz him. The Miz obviously kept his US title, but I mean, he wins Money in the Bank, but he slowly kind of gets that. You hold off all the way till it's winter time, then you pull the trigger. Like, you get used to him as Money in the Bank, constantly saying he's going to be the future, and he lean into it. Yeah, like Seth Rollins. He didn't have to do the WrestleMania cash in, but that chance is there. My worry is the reason that they did this was because the other plan for him was to be Money in the Bank and cash it in like Seth did. It's like, oh no, like, do I have to take note of the cash-ins? Like, that was the cash-ins. The two cash-ins that they showed on the show were, I realised the Bailey one was on the pre-show because I happened to have it on the background. Damn it, that doesn't count. So it was a Becky Lynch and Alexa Bliss one, where Alexa Bliss then went and cashed in later in the show, which happened, foreshadowing. Liv Morgan cashed in later on the show. Then the other one was Seth Rollins cashing in at WrestleMania, the heist of the century. We all know it, that sort of thing. But then Austin Theory goes and wins, and I'm like, oh no, is the reason because you're just going to repeat that? To which I'd immediately just look at it as, like, yeah, it was fantastic. It was the heist of the century was an amazingly booked moment. The problem with Theory then cashing in at SummerSlam is you've already done that idea, so it's no longer fresh. It's no longer new. It's the same. It's the whole problem I've got with them running Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar again. It's repeating the same stuff. Like, none of it's new. And again, this stuff only sticks out because you've got another promotion doing new, a lot of new. Like, one thing I can say about AEW, a lot of the stuff they do is new. It's new ideas. It's new ways to tackle stories, to tackle characters and arcs. Whilst if we just repeat the same idea because it worked last time, that's the opposite of what I'm looking for in wrestling right now. Like, just try and be original or something with it rather than just repeating what worked in the past. It does feel like there's a lot of characters that are shifting in a newer direction like that. It doesn't mean I like the characters, but at least there is that. And then there's Madcap Moss. But still, Austin Theory, I like the idea. I don't want him to cash in at SummerSlam. I want him to hold it off just a little bit longer. It doesn't have to be as long as Seth Rollins. The Miz kind of timeline feels about right, but he feels quite early in his career. Like, for him to jump to world champion this quickly, it's like, but I'm also not against the idea. It's something that New Japan do really well. Where they will have the first title reign of a future star. They have the first title reign, they become champion, but they don't hold it for very long, for like a month or two at max. Then they drop the title, but they will then win the title later and have a genuine run. For me, that's what you do with Theory. You give him a Money in the Bank win, and then he gets his ass beat relatively quickly after losing it, be it his second defence, something like that. But then he does that's set him up for later, so he does have a longer reign down the line. It's just first off, it's like, not to begin with. I guess they kind of did that with Roman Reigns, where he got his, instead of a title match, it was main event matches. He got his main eventing at Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, but he didn't actually win the title until later because of the whole heist of the century stuff. Yeah, there was that. Yeah. I am a little bit putting off talking about next because it's like, here we go, the match didn't really mean much. The Raw Women's Championship, Bianca Belair versus Carmella. Plan A in the much hotter match in Belair versus Ripley, falling by the injury wayside. The curse doesn't care what company you wrestle for. Everyone falls down. It absolutely sucks. That would have been a much, much hotter match. And obviously, we got a break Carmella glass in emergency title defense, just like at SummerSlam last year. Like, the trusty hand you can bet on having a solid match in spite of the result never being in doubt. And like this was a showcase for Belair, really, more than that. Like, going from a potentially tasty back and forth contest to a Bianca champion showcase was always never going to be as engaging. Belair is still amazing. The match was solid and built her up well. Just a shame the injury bug took away the original plan. In convincing fashion, with an awesome looking KOD in the end, Bianca Belair just destroyed her. Just won. End of. Done. Yeah, awesome. Cool. Absolutely destroyed her. And I was perfectly fine with that. I was like, you know what? It's okay. It's a substitute for the way hotter match. You keep Bianca strong. If Ripley is fine, you can just run this same match back at SummerSlam unless there's a bigger plan. But it was fine. Like, she relatively destroyed Carmella. Carmella got some of the cheeky heelness in, but no, she won out in the end. And I was fine with that. The thing I got question marks for is the beatdown afterwards, because I'm like, well, surely Carmella's not facing her at SummerSlam. Like, why is she getting the heat back? After the bell, beating Belair down, getting that heat back as Belair's and holding the titles, like, oh, I'm going to beat your ass, woman. Maybe that's how British. I'm going to beat your ass, woman. But as soon as that happened, it's like, okay. So, yeah. Like, you got Teddy time to fill before SummerSlam, I guess. So, yeah. And for me, that's not a reaction of somebody who was massively in on that storyline. It's like, it's fine, I guess. Sets it up. Yeah. But the title defense itself wasn't a lot to write home about. It was just that relatively strong performance from the champion, relatively dominant over the challenger, and winning, ready for the next one. It's like, it's fine. It's fine. It hurts a bit more when the pacing of the show dies in between each match, and then when it kicks back up, it's something you don't particularly care about. It's like, okay, fine. The next match was great. The Unified Tag Team Championships, the Usos versus the Street Profits. And as soon as this match was starting, as soon as the match was kind of the first half of it, the pace of it was the Usos really dominating, and I was watching this going, you know what, I know exactly what kind of match this is. This is the exact exciting 3-star premium live event spectacular thought it was going to be. And Montez Ford is going to stand out. He's going to be that fireball of energy and charisma, and be like, oh, he's going to be amazing. And I'll log on to Twitter and I see certain people like, oh my god, this is a sign that these guys are the absolute best. And then I was sitting there going, I mean, it was like 3 stars. It was fine. Like, it was fine. It was entertaining, but I wouldn't be like, oh my god, amazing. It's like, it's fine. That's what I thought I was going to leave it with. I enjoyed this way much more when it really kicked up into gear. Like, Montez Ford flying about really injected that energy, and that really, really helped for me. I'm watching it just thinking, how come we haven't seen him in a Money in the Bank match yet? Like, Montez Ford, he's on the pay-per-view, but he's like, well, surely he's got to be in the match once, right? He just screams that he'll be amazing in it. Like, I like both teams. I like all the lads. But I also went in not caring. Like, I have seen this pairing so many times at this point. They did not succeed in getting me invested in seeing it again. For me, it's kind of that. That's the truth. But like Lashley Theory, they fully won me over by the latter part of this flow. By the later part of this match, I was properly in there. The Profits with some great tag team offense towards the end. A lovely pounce into a suplex. And Montez with his mighty assisted blockbuster flying high off of the top. The crowd biting the hell out of the blockbuster, the Usos double super kick, and the Montez frog splash near falls. Like, really getting into it. Usos then kicking into final gear with the blind tag, and Dawkins' disposal, zoning in on a spent Tez who'd really hyped up to try and get that win to no avail. And they nailed yet another super kick, and 1D for the win. It's like, oh yeah, a lot of these heel tag matches in WWE, the heels win with a blind tag and it leads into something. It's like, yeah, once again, eventually the baby faces will learn. Eventually it will happen. But in a replay after the match, it's something I actually quite liked because of the way it was done. In the replay after the match, it's shown that Ford had his shoulder lifted up in the way the pin went down. And the way it was done, I honestly don't mind it. Like, quite often we WWE like, screwy finish. Like, okay, yeah, fine, yeah, this is to keep the rivalry going, which is exactly what this is. But the way they did it was a lot better than like a blatant shoulder that everybody sees and the ref somehow misses. This was completely different. Like, we, the home audience, we had no idea anything was up until the flip side camera angle replay. And that was the moment. And it also doesn't hurt that they just delivered a banger of a match that the fans were more than willing. They're more than willing for a second dose, like a second dance, one more time at SummerSlam. Like they were fine with it, and I was fine with it. It's the way it was done. Like the fans in unison realised, like, oh, well, no, wait, he did get his shoulder up. Like it's because you first watch it, you go, oh, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, that's a pin. 1, 2, 3. Okay, awesome, great. Yeah, hot finish. And then afterwards, he's like, oh no, they've got a reason to be angry there, and that works so much better than everybody seeing it first time. Like this works so much better. Yeah, they did it well. Well done. Liked it. Also, there was also before the kind of last match for me to talk about, there was a promo video for somebody that played. My initial instinct of, oh, that feels very Wyatt-esque. It was because of the light bulbs, the way that they were shot. But then there were the things actually on the tables that kind of like quickly got showed, like things that were on display. That they were there for the camera just to see and pick up, and these are the objects. And I was just like, oh, they've shot this in a very Wyatt way, where you see the hand, you don't know who the person is, you see the light bulbs upside down, it's kind of all in a lot of shadow as well. It's like, that is how they filmed the Bray Wyatt kind of spooky stuff. It's like, but when I saw the stuff that was there, it's like, I think quite a few people might be a bit pissed, because this feels a lot like Edge. As in, I saw the Dudley glasses and the Hardy kind of armband things. There was... Oh, what else was there? I can't remember. It's 5 a.m, I've forgotten. There is a load of stuff. It's all on Twitter. It's all there. If you were to like, just search what the stuff for this. I don't know. People did screenshot the parts from it. But I remember the Dudley glasses and the Jeff Hardy wristbands. But yeah, it was a really... I don't mind the idea of it. If I'm just like playing a dangerous game, filming it just like you would a Bray Wyatt vignette. It's like, this screams Edge because of the associated people just not being in the company apart from Edge. So yeah, there's a little hint of TLC of that past. I was like, yeah, I'm interested to see where this goes. Because Edge seemingly getting a complete character refresh after not wanting to do Spooky Spook with magic powers. It's like, yeah, like good on him for immediately getting what seems to be quite an in-depth idea off the ground, like very, very quickly. But it's a brave call to film it like a Bray Wyatt vignette, given how excited that will get people for a man that won't turn up, and it's Edge, somebody just on the roster that they've seen quite a lot. It's like, that's a shame. Anyway, this brings me to the final match. One more Super Slider. There's a bird tweeting really loudly right by my room. For the final match, the SmackDown Women's Championship, Ronda Rousey versus Natalya. Both women's title matches, not exactly plan A, so a little bit of forgiving there. But the women's one, so much less so. This one more than Raw highlights the problem of how incredibly shallow this division is, because the Raw women's division is not shallow. If Ronda isn't facing Charlotte again at some point, then I have absolutely no idea who she'll be facing. He could do Liv Morgan, but we'll get to that after the actual match part. Like, they tried to get me invested in this match, but again, I really went in not caring. Like, another trusty hand for the champion in Natalya to look impressive beating. Perfectly fine for TV, but I find it difficult to be invested as a pay-per-view feud. I really, really struggled. It also says so much that Ronda Rousey seemed, in terms of her spot on the card, she went from big time celebrity getting all the buzz, like a huge name for WWE, to a cool down title defense in front of a quiet, recovering crowd before the main event. Like, that crowd did not care for this match. Like, this match, without the benefit of the champion being booked to be dominant in a quick flow, like, instead we got a submission back and forth late into the show to polite applause. It's like, good God. Like, I didn't hate the closing sequence though. There were some really nice bits. Like Ronda Rousey doing the sharpshooter with the Shawn Michaels pose. That was a good laugh. Like, I enjoyed that. Like, just, the rest of it, it wasn't strong. Like, way too long and the complete wrong spot on the card for the kind of match that this was. Like, this is like way earlier in the card. At this point, when they're exhausted after a white hot tag match, they're just not gonna care. Like, I think Belair would have been possibly a better spot for this, but he might hit a similar problem. But because she's more dominant, it kind of fits a bit better in this slot. Yeah. Anyway, immediately after Liv Morgan cashed in, all of our problems, all of our woes immediately eradicated, gone. But as soon as she comes out, immediately I'm like, of course they do. Of course Liv Morgan cashes in immediately, because it's been like 5-6 years since a woman's held their briefcase longer than longer than 2 weeks. And like Liv actually won. That caught me by surprise. I was like, oh no, are they going to do a thing where she fails to cash in on Ronda Rousey? Is that what's going to happen here? But she wins. Liv Morgan is the new champion. It's difficult to watch this and not be super, super happy for her. Like Rousey, I want to be happy for Liv, but I mean, I am happy for Liv, but it's the character that I'm kind of struggling with here, and it's the WWE as a whole. It's like but they've not. I would like to see her hold the briefcase for a little bit, rather than almost like the majority of the women for the past 5 years. Past 5 years is 100% of them have cashed in within a couple of weeks. So many on the show itself. I think Bayley, Alexa, 3 of them. Bayley, Alexa Bliss are now here. That's 3 out of 5, and the other 2 cash in within 2 weeks. Like, if that doesn't say, it's like, good God. That said, the thing that really took me out was Ronda Rousey with a reaction of complete unbelievability. Like, oh shucks, you got me, gal, and just giving her it's just holding the title afterwards, and then she gives it to her. It's like, oh, you did well. I was like, oh, you got me, and off she walks. I was like, oh, what a good sportsmanship from her. I was like, that's not a human reaction. Like, she doesn't have to fully beat the crap out of her, but she can be pissed. Like, an understandable reaction in the moment, instead of just the baby face. Oh well, you got me. That's the go-to robot reaction. It's like, oh no, like, oh dear. It completely took me out of it. It got this amazing human response from Liv Morgan herself in winning, but then Ronda Rousey's response, what she's been given to do, makes no sense. This is not me running on Ronda Rousey. This is all writing and production at this point. This is all of the creative part. It's like, no. She needs to be pissed. She doesn't have to beat her up. She doesn't have to turn heel, but she can be angry at her. But I understand you want the crowd to soak in on Liv's win. But Ronda Rousey, she can leave the ring. She doesn't have to hand her the title. She can go. She can be pissed outside of the ring. It's fine. But she can turn up the next night or something and beat her up. She's tired and beaten up here. It's like, yeah. There's different ways around it. They didn't have to do the handover and just be like, oh, you got me. Like, oh, whatever. On the other hand, boy, am I glad Rousey's no longer champion. That reign was flat and horrid. Champion pigeonholed into working a certain way, even though that's not to her strength at all. It's like, okay, fine. She's not going to cut the Rock promos dissing her competition in a competent way, in a super charismatic way. That's not her strengths. She's got loads of strengths. You don't have to use this one idea. So, it gets me sometimes when it happens. Oh well. But anyway, the show overall, it's more about the Money in the Bank stuff. So we got our Money in the Bank moments. We got the winner of Liv Morgan in a great feel-good moment. We got the winner of the heel elevated in Austin Theory. So again, closer to the Miz, we can have him hold the briefcase and hold it over our heads for a period of time before ultimately cashing it in. Then there's also Liv Morgan cashing in herself to become the champion, really shake up SmackDown. That's the thing that's a bit more interesting, purely because the women's division on SmackDown has been so flat feeling that Liv Morgan can be something that injects a bit of life there, given that she's so naturally got fans on her side as well. Like, that's something that SmackDown desperately needed, because they don't have that person. Ronda Rousey is not that focal point. There was no babyface they were naturally gravitating towards. Liv Morgan can be that. It can work. It'd be fine. Would have liked to see her kind of naturally elevate a bit with the briefcase, but it's fine. It's fine. But overall, Money in the Bank for me. Oh, it's a weird mixed one. I enjoyed the ladder matches. There we go. I enjoyed watching the multi-person ladder kerfuffles, and its chaos. There was chaos. There was some bits smoother than others. It was, yeah. There was, especially I thought the men's match was solid. Like, I really enjoyed the men's one with no criticism. The women's I still enjoyed for the chaoticness of it. I don't need a ladder match to be the smooth, well wrestled. I don't need to be a Zack Sabre Jr. special. I'm fine with things not quite working out. It comes with the territory. That's not a big deal to me. But the men's match, I thought it did flow a lot better. It's just that outside of spots not quite working, the flow of the match was a lot stronger for me. It elevated really well. Like swung into trying to convince you certain people were going to win a lot stronger. So there's that. Anyway, I'm going to go to bed. I'm kind of waffling on a little bit. You can follow me on Twitter before I disappear. You can follow me on Twitter at the damn implicat. The damn is in damn. And there's the implication for 2 S's for my Twitch. And for Wrestling Headlines itself, that's Russell Headlines on Twitter. That's Wrestle without an E. And Wrestling Headlines over on Facebook. And the website itself for all your latest wrestling news. That was Money in the Bank. What did you make of Money in the Bank 2022? Are you happy with the winners? With the women's quick cash in? Is it an issue to you? It's been every year this happens. Or it's not an issue because this one was done. This is one of the good examples. I think they've all been good examples apart from... I think the ones that cashed in on the night have all been fine. Bailey, Alexa Bliss, and now this one. I think they've all been fine. It's the ones that have been quick quick after the show. It's like, like Nikki Cross. Like, Nikki ASH was they're fine. They're not the strongest. Anyway, with that, I say thank you for listening, watching, engaging in any form, any manner. Always appreciated. Never